Drying finished wood flooring has never been more predictable than with the HP Vac-It panel drying system. In most cases, stabilization can be achieved in 2 to 6 days, although some flooring systems might take longer. The goal is to remove the visible cupping and to get close to appropriate equilibrium moisture content without overdrying. The Vac-It panel system is designed for removing excess moisture out of wood flooring and subfloors. Let's explore the restoration process, which starts after determining the areas which contain more moisture than is appropriate. To determine the dry standard, go to an unaffected area to get your base reading, which can vary by several points. All wood flooring systems will have a normal moisture content, which will vary due to climatic conditions, whether or not the heating or cooling system is on, and occupant usage. Starting with a common installation of finished wood over a plywood or OSB subfloor, let's explore some panel setups. After the wet area has been defined with the use of tape, plan a panel setup which will be more effective if at least 1/3 of the wet flooring is covered with panels. When placing a rectangular multi-port panel on a wet surface, align the panel so that it will cover as many boards as possible. In other words, you will usually want to align the panels across the width of the boards, not the length. When positioning the panels, always put them over wood which is still wet, and don't overlap on or over dry flooring. Exerting vacuum pressure on dry wood will dry it even more and possibly overdry the already dry wood. When positioning panels, it's best to put the panels end to end on the sides of the boards. At most, only leave 1 to 3 planks or boards uncovered on the side between the panel ends. Between rows of panels, you can leave 2 to 4 feet or sometimes even more. When drying near a wall, always start several feet away, that is 2 to 4 feet out from the wall, as you will not want to overdry near the wall where there will be more airflow due to the expansion gap next to the wall. Vac-It panels come in a variety of shapes and sizes to accommodate areas of different configurations and dimensions. Injectidry's Vac-It panels offer 2 different sized ports. First, there is the larger 1.5-inch port from which air can be extracted either by a hose cuff connection or by connecting a supplied T to enable the panel to be joined with a number of other panels. The single large port is best used only if drying with 1 to 4 panels on a fairly tight floor. The panels also have 5 small 3/8-inch ports which have several purposes. They can be used with either the 10-port manifolds or the patented active hose line. If you use only the small ports, cap off the unused large port with one of the enclosed end cap plugs. If using 5 or more panels, the 5 small extraction points should be used. Because wood flooring systems almost always get wet unevenly, when you dry them, one area is apt to dry first. In other words, they even dry unevenly. The flooring beneath the panel in that area which is dried first will then slightly open up between boards. This gap will allow more air to flow through and the floor will dry even faster, with a larger gap being the possible result. Extracting from just the 5 small ports will help balance the drying. You can also control the amount of suction applied to the affected floor by removing 1 or more pieces of tubing and capping off the unused ports on the panels. Let's see how to do the extraction. A good way to accomplish this is to lay the panels down you think you will need and connect the hose line in a complete circle back to the main unit W. This circle will balance out the airflow and the pressure at all points. The gray male barb with female thread on the opposite end will allow easy connection between the extraction hose and the main W. If you do not have an HB 300, you can tape them together. Before connecting the HP base unit to the hose line, extract with either a truck mount or carpet extractor for a minimum of 15 to 20 minutes or until no more liquid water comes up. Inspect underneath the panels during this extraction process to see if any bulk water is coming up. If there is visible water, wipe it off the flooring and the back of the panel and continue extracting until there is no more visible water. It might be necessary to side shift the panels for a more thorough extraction. Now, even when this step is taken, there can still be water which might come up in bulk form after taping the panels down. To further protect your HP system, always use a water separator the first 24 hours after initial setup. After that, it will be safe to remove the water separator to increase airflow and speed up drying if no water is present on the flooring surface. Let's look at the water separator. The two small lower ports are for connecting the lines from the panels to bring any possible droplets into the bottom of the separator. The air is extracted out of the larger port up higher on the separator. There's a riveted band in the unit to keep the walls from collapsing during extraction. Another important step to take is to always use an interceptor HEPA filter when using suction on either a wall or flooring system. Any debris, dirt, or mold located in that area can be sucked out from underneath the wood or the wall and blown into the room. The interceptor will stop such debris. It also protects your machine from particulate damage and cross-contaminations such as mold, pet dander, or allergens from one job site to another. Make sure to attach the silencer to the end of the air out black and yellow hose. Attach the silencer to the strap on the blower housing to keep it off the floor. Leaving the silencer on the floor can heat up and overdry whatever the silencer is contacting. Now that we've extracted, set up the water separator and interceptor HEPA filter system, let's tape down the panels. A good tape to use is Dr. Shrink's preservation tape. We recommend tape for safety purposes. Panels are regularly placed in traffic areas and an individual could slip on them if they are not taped down. Taping also substantially increases suction and airflow by up to 20%. It's important to ensure that the tape will not remove the floor finish when being removed, so check in several inconspicuous areas such as closets or beneath an appliance. Now this is to ensure that the tape will not lift the finish. However, this is not a foolproof test, as the longer tape is on a finish, the greater the adhesion. There are several reasons for tape removing finish. Water can get beneath some finishes, causing weakening of the adhesion of the finish to the wood. This is a result of the water damage. In addition, some finishes might not have been properly applied by the original floor finisher, so a pre-existing lack of adhesion was waiting to become evident. Don't use masking or duct tape, as they might remove the finish and the restorer might be held responsible. If the restorer wants to further lessen the chance of finish removal, put down a layer of painter's tape first, then apply a covering of preservation tape. Painter's tape is least likely to remove finish. However, by itself, painter's tape is apt to crack. Painter's tape is porous, so used by itself, it will usually fail to provide the sealing needed. Let's look at the 8-point panel. This is the first one that we made. You will see that there are 8 individual parts to the panel, which can be used as a single panel, 2 or 4 or even 8 individual panels. This panel does not have a gasket because it is made to be cut into sections if needed. For instance, small closets might require only 4 of these sections. Here is how it should be cut. Notice that while the panel is virtually unbreakable, a utility knife can be used to score and separate the sections. Another closet or area might need a longer, yet a shallow setup. In that case, the panel should be customized to the shape of the area that needs drying. 8-point panels can be reused either as pieces or taped together to form a single panel. Extraction can be accomplished by using all 8 ports or even just 4 due to the bridging between sections, which allows airflow to occur between all points and parts of the panel. The 8-point panels will definitely need to be taped down due to the absence of a gasket. The large multi-port panels measure approximately 2.5 by 4 feet. This is a gasketed panel which has 2 different size ports from which to extract air and moisture. If using the 5 small ports, cap off the unused large port with a supplied cap. If using the large port only, the smaller ports can be used to supply vacuum pressure for other smaller panels. The clear panel has a single large extraction point and is great for demonstration purposes for your water damaged client or an adjuster. These are more fragile than the black panels, so handle them carefully. Another panel is a U-shaped panel which can be used with toilets and wash basin stands or on both sides of a wall in a doorway. It comes with 3 smaller panels that connect together with tubing for drying smaller areas. The question often comes up as to how many panels can be used per system. There's no hard and fast number due to job variations. If you want to use a tool to measure the pressure, a manometer can be used. The minimum pressure you should look for is 5 inches of water column pressure. This may not sound like much, but even 5 inches will give a combined pressure of 270 pounds per panel. You might notice that as the flooring dries, the pressure measured at the panels will be less every day. This is due to the air flowing more freely underneath the panels as the boards dry. There are several variables that come into play when determining how many panels can be used. Is the finish severely worn? Are there any gaps or cracks in the floor? Is it a long hallway with expansion gaps or a kitchen with the hardwood cut around the cabinets? You will lose suction at all of these points. In situations like these, you may have to limit the amount of panels you used to 4 or 5. But if the finish is in good condition, the installation is nice and tight, and there is not a large amount of expansion gaps, you may be able to use 10 or more panels. The most difficult floors to seal panels to are the pre-finished beveled flooring systems due to the large V-shaped gap between boards. The next most difficult is the eased edge or micro beveled floor. Each of these gaps between boards is an area where the air can leak, lessening the vacuum and limiting the number of panels which can be used. It's best to use tape and push this tape between the boards using a tool or your fingernail. Attempting to dry engineered hardwood flooring may not always be successful because it is not a solid wood material and sometimes floats on a pad beneath it. So the cost of drying might exceed the cost of replacement. However, you may be able to dry some engineered floors successfully depending on the circumstances. Drying floors is both an art and a science. The goal is not to try to hit the dry standard everywhere on every board. To do this would overdry in some areas. The restorer should be looking to see the cupping virtually gone, but moisture readings might only be within 2 to 6% of the particular dry standard. If drying is continued until all readings are at or below dry standard, the floor will undoubtedly be damaged and overdried. Be smart and stop when you should.